Welcome to part 2 in my workshop build series. So in the last video we laid the foundation for my new workshop by digging some holes, pouring some concrete pads and placing down a weed sheet and 20 breeze blocks. I then built the frame for the workshop base. If you didn't see part 1 of the workshop build series, I'll leave a link in the top right hand corner of the screen. The next step should be laying the sheets for the flooring, but I am holding off on this until all my framing is done. The idea being that I can build all my walls and roof frames and then wait for 3 to 4 days of good weather to put the whole thing together without the OSB flooring getting rained on. So these are the plans for the rear wall and side walls, and this is the plan for the front wall. These 3 sections are the roof sections, and they'll be what I'm working on in the first part of this video. So these are the roof sections which are just roughly laid out, and I'm using treated 4x2s for these, just like I did for the base. I'm just going to get them roughly laid out and use a spacer like I did with the floor joists to space out the roof joists and start screwing it together. So you can see from these diagrams that the 2 outside sections are slightly different from the inner section. The 2 outside sections have 2 pieces on the very outside edge, and that's because the second piece in from the outside, it will be directly over the side wall of the shed and gives me something to prop the roof up with, and I can put noggins in between the side wall and the roof section. So the piece I'm just working on here is the middle piece, and I'm just obviously put it all together already, and I'm just putting the noggins in. The part that my dad is sat on is the 2 side pieces, so I'll just lift those up. You can see from this section that it's just basically 4 joists and noggins, and it's pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to stack that up at the other side of the garden against the hedge for now. And these 2 roof sections I built one on top of the other because they're basically the same, just a mirror image. You can see at the top of this roof section there's 2 joists almost together. And again, I'm just going to stack these up at the other side. So my next step was to build the back wall and side walls. You can see from this diagram the back wall is in 2 sections, the side walls are just in 1, and it's just because of the weight of the whole of the back wall. It was easier to work with it in 2 bits rather than just 1. And because the floor is designed so that I can put full sheets of OSB down, and the top edge will line up with the noggins and the far edge will line up with the far edge of the frame. If I build my wall exactly on top of the base, that means I can also put a full sheet of OSB on the wall when I come to board the shed out inside after it's insulated and everything else. So I'm just going to lay the studs of the wall on top of the joists here and just line everything up. I know the frame for the base is square, so by lining the wall up on top of it, just directly on top of it, means I know that the wall is also square, so I can just line it up. It makes it really easy, and just screw in the top section and the bottom section into the studs, and then put the noggins in, and I know that everything's going to line up perfectly for me. So it's just a really easy way to do it. Now you can see here I've had to drag it across because the back wall does not go right into the corners, and the reason for that is because the side wall will go right into the corners at the front and the back, and the back sections will sit in between the side walls. So yeah, it looks like it doesn't line up anymore. It's only because it's actually shorter than the base. So here I'm just putting in the noggins, and you can see what I mean. If so, at the left side of your screen, you'll it's the bottom edge of my wall, and I'm just putting the noggins in, which are approximately 2/3 of the way up the wall. And the distance from the floor to where these noggins are is the same distance as the width of a sheet of OSB. So by laying a full sheet, which should go from the middle of the shed right to the side wall, and it will also go from the floor right up to the noggins, I can basically use a full sheet there and just screw it straight to the wall. Obviously I'll need to rip down another sheet of OSB to place for the top third of the wall, which obviously I'll need to do on both sides, but that's fine. But the bottom 2/3 of the wall will be literally just putting a sheet of OSB against it and screwing it straight in. It should be as simple as that in theory, but we'll see when I come to it eventually. So that's one section done for the back wall, and I'm just going to do exactly the same on this other section. You can see from a slightly different angle. I'm just going to let this run. I know it's the same as the other one, but it does give you it from a different angle if somebody is wanting to copy what I'm doing, although I'm not going to advise that. I think it's a decent shed. I've designed it and built it myself. I think it's really good, but that's just my opinion. If somebody wants to copy me, they can, but on their own head be it. But this just gives you a different angle, so you can see if you are going to copy this then. And I'm putting 2 screws in every single joint, in every single noggin and stud and joist. There's these 2 screws. And here I'm using the noggins just to give me the space, although I don't really need to because I'm using the joists of the base for the spacing, but it just helps to hold everything in place. I can just push the stud up to the noggin and hold it against there while I screw it in. It just holds it in place a bit easier, although like I say, there's no real need for me to do that. It's just to make sure I don't slip. So this is the bit you can see there where I've just pulled it over again. So the position it's in now is not the position it will be in when it's stood up. The position it was in initially is the position it would be when it was stood up, because it starts in the middle and runs to where the side wall will finish. If you can understand, you'll probably understand a bit clearer when I start putting the walls up. And again, see here I'm just putting the noggins on top of the floor noggins. I know that is a full sheet of OSB, so it's a really easy, quick and simple way to do it. So on this bit here you can see where there's a gap at the side of the shed, which is where the side wall will go. And that's the two back wall sections done. So now that the back walls are done, I'm going to make a start on the front elevation, and again I'm going to do this in two parts. So there'll be the left hand side where the door is and the right hand side with the window just at the top. There's going to be a nice slimline window near the top of the build, and so we'll make a start on that. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here because it's basically just much of the same as what you've already seen. It's just putting together framework using the noggins for spaces, and obviously there's a window in this one. If anyone was to build something similar to this, you'd probably want to use your own measurements, so there's not really much point in me going into too much detail. So I'm just going to let the video run, and you can see how it all goes together. So that's the first section done, and I'm now going to start on the left hand section, which is the part with the door frame in it. I'm going to have two doors, standard size door for just everyday use, and then there's going to be another smaller door at the side of that, which I will only open when I need that little bit of extra space for getting large boards in and out of the shed, or if I need to bring a large project out. So the front sections are done, and we're going to start on the side walls. These are really basic. It's just a 3 meter wide frame by 1840 high, with 6 studs. I'm basically just going to lay them out on top of the base again as I did before. I'm going to use the noggins as spaces again and just screw the whole thing together. So at this point all my framing is done. I have a base, some wall frames and some roof frames. So now I just need 3 or 4 days of decent weather so that I can get the floor down and get all the walls up and the roof on. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate your support. In the next video I will be insulating the floor, getting the OSB flooring down and getting the walls up and possibly getting the roof on as well. So there's a lot to do, so I'll see you in that video. Thanks a lot, guys.